But there was, I don't know what, do you remember Powell at school? Harry Powell at all? No, Annie is. Jean or Sheila, no. He taught, yes, that's him. He was one vicious man. He was the wee shop was done out there beside it. But he was absolutely brutal. He taught in South Africa when he come there. And I think he still thought he was teaching darkies. He had a big thick bamboo and he welted you with this thing. And the only man he couldn't beat was wee Tommy Cromie. Or no, Tommy Blakely. I knew that if you got hot and cried, he didn't hit you again, so I learned to cry first kick every time. I never got to. But Tommy wouldn't do it. I seen him getting 6 in each hand, and he'd come and he'd sit beside me, and he just suddenly got there, rocking back and forward. No. So I got our dinner, come back in 1 o'clock, or I think it was 1 o'clock, half 1 come back, and the door burst open, and in come Maggie Blakely. Somebody went up to Tully Cavey and told Maggie. And she come in with a pot of jam in her hand, and what she given that man, what she would do him. She says, I need that for my man's tea. I would smash it over your big baldy head. Well, we'd have to Powell never come back. That funny Powell. He was vicious altogether. But wee Miss Bailey was great, wasn't she? Yeah. Except when she sat on the desk with her legs open. It was ridiculous. You fellas sitting there she sat up on the desk facing with her legs wide open. Oh, dear God. And no, who was there? Miss Packham. We call her Miss Packham, but she was Mrs. Packham. She was a great teacher, wasn't she? But out of Evans, he was another vicious thug. He put the key in it as he walked up the corridor and swept the place. You stepped inside that circle, you got the key in. And then, there's no relations of May Bowles here, and I no. May got me an awful hiding in the school. She says, Cromie, get up here. And she says, sing. I said, I can't sing. She says, sing. And I says, no, I don't know any songs anyway. And she gave me the words of Jerusalem. I'll never forget it. She wanted me to sing Jerusalem. I said, I can't sing that. Get out into the corridor. I'm standing in the corridor. Down comes Bob Lindsay. What are you doing there, Cromie? Miss Bowl put me out, sir. What for? Because I can't sing. He says, you mean you can't sing? Well, I says, whatever you like. I can't sing. But I tell you, when he finished with the cane, I could sing all right. Wasn't he bad at all? Wasn't he bad at all, boy? I could yodel with the best of them when he got me with a cane. But school was good. I enjoyed the school then because you had wee plots. I think they should do this in schools again. You know, the lasses had a home cooking day, or they called it home cooking just, wasn't he? What do they call it? There's some fancy name for it, but it was home cooking then, big wee buns just. But the boys had a wee plot. There was 3 men to a plot, or 3 boys to a plot, and you grew all this stuff. And the teachers got theirs, and the rest went to Mr. Johnson up the street, who had the fruit and vegetable shop, and he sold it from there. But what he did to repay the school, the next season coming in, he brought plants and seeds, and he would a spade or a rake or something, and he donated that to the school, and then you grew the stuff again. That's the way it went. And, yeah, when you were about 10 to 13, you did this here, and it was good fun, and you learned to be a bit about it, you know. But you stole the stuff too. You filled your peas and beans, you filled your pocket to take them in, but you ate them before you got there. But this fella, another fella had passed away, you know. And the old days then was the wake, and the night before, no matter how big a rascal this fella was, when he was in that coffin, he was never a better man drew breath than that man there. He was really the man. But the boys got running and had a lot of drink, but in them old days, that was when they put the pennies in your eyes. Do you know that? Do you know why they did that? Huh? No. It was to pay the boatman to take you across. That was the belief. It was to pay 2 pennies were to pay the boatman to take you across to the right side of the river. So if you had no money, you stayed there outside. But anyway, Davy passed away, and the boys were in, and they brought a wheen of drinks for them and going straight. Of course, there was a half bottle put in the coffin because that was in their parish, so he wouldn't get thirsty on the boat. So anyway, we're sitting there and they'd run out of drink. Well, there was no off licenses or things like that then. And so that's why, we'll call him the Count, that was his nickname. He disappeared and he came back with this half bottle. He says, where'd you get that? I says, you know where. He said, you took that out of the coffin. Aye. He says, sure, he's getting a carry out in the morning. All right, but that old fellow McCracken, Paddy, you remember him coming down? He had a club foot. There was the horse tramped on him. Aye, but he wouldn't even go into the house. Your dad used to put us all out. If it's 3 or 4 wheels, he hunted us out. And this boy come in, you'd hear the thump of the foot coming up the street. John could hear him at the foot of the terraces. The thump, and he brought him in. Everybody was put out. He got his hair cut. And he came out this day, and he always, when he talked, he was here. And he says to me and Billy, he says, were you ever in Porty Ferry? And we went to the football match then, and he says, I'm going there now. And away he walked to Porty Ferry and back. With that club fit. They must have heard him in Kirkcaldy when he's near Porty Ferry. Another great mate of mine was wee Gordon. You know, he couldn't tell the stories he'd tell you, unfortunately. But you know, when you consider the life he had, Billy and I wrote a wee bit about it for him. It's doctored. It was no doctored up. It's made a wee bit easier to read than what I would have wrote. But you know, when you think on it, he was on a boat. Christmas Day. He was locked in this place with 9 other men to put shells forward to the Shornhurst, for the Duke of York to fire at the Shornhurst. And it was Christmas Day, we're talking. And he says, they're talking about their Christmas dinner. He says, there was 9 of us. We got a loaf, a can of soup, and a tin of bully beef, and that was our Christmas dinner. That's what they got pushed in. And that's had us feed 9 men sitting in this wee hole, locked in it. But I didn't know this, but I found out later that where Harry is, that was John Bunton, had that original place first. And he had the wheelbarrow, or the bicycle with the ice cream container in it. But he sold fish and everything. That was where we got we used to run around the street after him yelling, John Bunton sells fish, 3 happens a dish. Got their heads off, got their tails off, John Bunton sells fish. He used to rage like hell. But there was him and the other real character of Ballywater, James Slender Eccles. He was a real one-off. I think personally he was the funniest man that ever left Ballywater, and he never should have left it. But anyhow, he got one of these wee trucks. Miss Creighton, just past where the entrance of the hall is, there was a wee shop there, Miss Creighton, a wee home bakery. She had the wee ice cream cart too. So James Slender, he got hers, he did work for her, and Bunton and him had a competition as who got up the street quicker. And he said he put the sign up, stop me and buy one, and James got up and said, stop me and buy 2. But then they said James put an advertisement for condoms on it, and he put on it, buy me and stop one. I don't know whether that's true or no. He was in, you would remember him in the cinema, the night you played the piano. He was the compere on the stage that night when Randy Monaghan and that's right, you were on the stage. You played, that's the 2 girls played a duet for Randy Monaghan when he sung "When Irish Eyes Are Smiling," and that was before 1947, 46. It was just after the war, and it was a concert. I'm Jimmy Warnock and Slender Eccles, but Slender got up on the stage and introduced the acts. But he said, by the way, has a wallet been found? If you've lost it, it's Miss Hunt in the foyer has it. By the way, her first name's Helen. And if you go up there to go to Helen Hunt for the photo, or for your wallet. So Jackson didn't like this at all. So he was there, and so the next thing Slender gets up again, he said to the wee fella at Sunday school, and the teacher says, does anybody know where God lives? And this wee boy says, I know. He says, and lives in Dora McCulloch's house in the Wallera there. He says, how do you know that? I heard her yelling this morning, Holy God, boy, are you never up yet? Jackson took him off the stage, and the accused him of blasphemy and threw him out onto the street. He was accused of blasphemy. But oh, he was serious. He was the one who brought that in up when, when the minister come to visit your house, you were fired out of the road. You had to get up the stairs, if there was an upstairs, up the road. So Sydney and James were fired upstairs, and James down for a while, and the minister was in. James said, "Hey, Ma, you want to come up here? What's wrong?" Or Sydney's pulling the sleeves out of the eider down. It was a big greatcoat. But he was a bit here. He went. He took Gordon. Well, it's no too bad. He got a motorbike and sidecar at the finish, and he was able to put the wee container of ice cream into the sidecar, and then he could drive down to Malile to the beach then, because there were still folk coming with bought ice cream. So he was standing. Gordon, by this time, had met a lass a bit in Malile, and he was courting her, as they call it. James stopped. He says, "Where are you going?" He said, "Malile." He said, "Well, left arm from, I'm going to jump into the sidecar." So, of course, the next day we had to see Gordon to see how he got on. How I got on? He says, "I sat to Malile with my legs in a freezer." He says, "I was there 2 hours before I thawed it." He says, "There was no curtain then." Lizzie, it was her. She fell in love with MacDonald that run the picture house. She used to come in with a powder, but it was flour she'd put in her face. John, your dad used to do that when he was cutting your hair. He just said, "Hold on a minute," he had a cake of soda in the griddle, and he ran over and turned it with his hand and come in and cleaned his hands in your jersey. You thought you were full of dandruff when you went to him. But he was, I suppose like the families took from him, you get to play it on in music and he had a tin whistle, and as we talked about Jews, he referred to it as a jaws harp, which I think would be the proper name, because you did play with your jaws. And I met a fella here recently, a few years back. He had a box of 8 in different keys. So he had, and when they had something going, he could have went ahead with the key you were singing in, or whatever they were playing in. But that was one of those pieces, just get the floor on your shoulders and away you went.